Hey guys, welcome. We are going to do a special education Ask the Advocate, special education boss version of OCR trainings. We're very excited. Oh, let me do this. This always helps, Wi-Fi. So it can be stable. There's just a couple people in the background. Anyway, I hope you're all warm wherever you are. A friend of mine just lives here in Houston area and posted snow, but there's no snow. It's like 5,000 degrees. I think it might have been an old picture. But we were forced to go, oh my gosh, that looks great. So I hate when people say we're going to wait a couple minutes. But we are going to take comments if they're related to OCR training. We're going to kind of do this and then move it into a webinar. That way it can be a little more interactive. You guys can have the slides at the end because somebody said we ready. I like that. We ready. That is good English. Because who doesn't love a slide? I like slides. Okay. So we're going to start with this. I think the biggest impact that we've had recently for myself and advocates that we're training, Angelique is ready, is the impact that we're having in districts with filing OCR complaints. So we're going to give you a little general overview of what is the OCR. I love you guys too. What it does, what it doesn't do. I think more, and I don't have facts to back this up, but I think more OCR complaints are thrown out than are actually opened. And we can make some tweaks at the beginning to make sure that that doesn't happen to you guys. Okay. So we're going to start out with, there's a great little training on the OCR called OCR 101. So if you go to the OCR reading room, and you just have to remember all this in your great big brain, OCR reading room, and look under about OCR. This is called OCR 101. I'll pause for a minute so you can screenshot it. I actually took this little webinar like 100 years ago. And this is OCR 101. This last version was revised in July of 2010. And so I want you to know what OCR is and what OCR isn't. I think it's important that when you read the sentence that says OCR opens investigations for children that were discriminated against based on their disability, then it sounds like all kids with all disabilities of any sort of area that you were discriminated, right? And it actually isn't that way. It actually has great specificity. So we're going to go through, this is just the OCR 101, what are your basic rights and kind of what does OCR do? Then we're going to get into their CPM, their case processing manual, and kind of how I go through an OCR filing. Okay? So we're going to describe OCR, its mission, explain how OCR carries out its mission, and increase awareness about OCR and civil rights that protect students and others from disabilities. Okay? So what is OCR? OCR is the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights, federal civil rights enforcement agency. There's 13 entities in the federal government that relate to special education. This is one of them. So you would go to ed.gov, and then type in OCR to get all the information about that. The mission of the Office for Civil Rights is to ensure equal access to education and to promote educational excellence to the nation through vigorous enforcement of civil rights laws. And so if you're going to file an OCR complaint, you need to know that it goes to a district court. And those OCR locations are located in the exact locations that are if you had a state case that was going to federal appellate court. So the entities are, and I have OCR complaints open everywhere. They don't have to be where you live. I have them open everywhere for playgrounds, front doors, that sort of thing. And then just depending on where my client is, I open OCR complaints as it relates to specific disabilities, allegations for services or denial of services or accommodations. So the offices are in Seattle, San Francisco, Denver, Kansas City, Dallas, Cleveland, Chicago, Atlanta, Washington, Philadelphia, and Boston. And depending on where you're zoned, when you file your OCR complaint, it will be to ed at OCR.gov, ed at OCR.gov. It will go directly based on the zip code that you put in to your correct office. Okay, so, what does OCR do? OCR enforces several civil rights laws. Together, these laws prohibit discrimination on the following: basis of race, color, national origin, sex, disability, age, as well as discrimination against certain patriotic youth groups that wish to meet at public schools. So for the purposes of today and kind of what our webinar will be, and we don't have the webinar date yet, so of course I just throw it out there. I don't have a date, but we will get you that date. We're going to talk about disability. The things I usually file on for OCR are going to be disability and retaliation, and sometimes I file on race if there's another entity that has violated somebody's rights that doesn't maybe have English as their first language. So how OCR accomplishes its mission is through complaints, compliance reviews, and technical assistance. OCR has jurisdiction over programs and activities that receive financial assistance from the Department of Education. This could include state education agencies. So I do have some people that file OCR cases against state education agencies. Now, I'd recommend that you are a little more gangster in filing. You can't just file and go, I'd like to file against New York. You really know what you're doing. Elementary and secondary school systems, colleges and universities, state vocational rehabilitation agencies. So for our purposes, again, we're talking about kids with disabilities between the ages of 3 and 21, 22. So we're going to be talking about public schools, charter schools. Those are both public entities. OCR has jurisdiction over certain public entities under Title II of the ADA, which was in 1990, which prohibits disability discrimination by public entities on whether or not they were, which prohibits disability discrimination by public entities, whether or not they receive federal financial assistance. So listen to that again. The ADA covers public entities, whether or not they receive federal assistance. So I'm going to kind of break down a few of these for you really quickly, and then we'll go from there. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 started out with race, color, national origin. It included disciplining the students differently based on their race, assigning a student to an educational program based on their race, harassment based on their race, or providing inadequate educational resources limited for students. Title IX of the Education Amendment came in 1972, and that prohibits discrimination based on sex. Title IX provisions include discrimination on the basis of sex in providing opportunities, sexual harassment or gender-based harassment, discrimination on the basis of sex in academic counseling and advice. Okay? For purposes of today, again, we're going to talk about Section 504 as it relates to an IEP or a 504 document. So the 504 entity, Rehabilitation Act of 1973, comes in alignment with the Title II of the American Act with Disabilities in 1990. And they prohibit discrimination based on disability. So examples of prohibited discrimination under both Section 504 and Title II may include the following. Failure to provide a free, appropriate public education to an elementary or secondary student with a disability. So failure to provide FAPE to an elementary or secondary student with a disability. So that's 504 or IEP. Failure to provide appropriate academic adjustments to qualified college students with a disability. I've never had one of these cases, but of course, if you're going to have accommodations in a state school or college, those are going to fall under 504. And then next, denying the benefits of a program or activity because the school's facilities are inaccessible. And we're going to really kind of unpack that. Examples are definition of a disability is a physical or mental impairment that affects a major life area, a record of an impairment, or being regarded as having an impairment. So kind of let's talk about these three things, these two things, failure to provide a FAPE in elementary school or secondary education, right? A secondary education means anything past elementary school. So junior high, intermediate, or high school. And then also denying the benefits of a program or activity because the school's facilities are inaccessible. So let me just give you some, some parameters. I know that you guys know that I love a good video. And I love taking pictures at schools. And so this last weekend I took pictures. You can go back on my TikTok. It was Sunday, February 12th. And I took pictures of a high school, which is a high school where my grandkids would go if they lived here. They haven't been born yet, but they're going to move here. So some of the things that I want you to know is everybody has the right to access the building. So kind of some of the things I showed there were what? I showed the gymnasium, the auditorium, and the front doors of a public school. So it's not just about kids that have a disability. It's about anybody that was in a wheelchair should be able to access the building. And I'm not going to pull out all the code for you right now, but while there's no requirement that every door in the world has that button on it, I just threw my highlighter because that's what I do when I'm serious. But I have to hold the highlighter. It's more impactful, don't you think? So I made a video of Cabela's, right? They have those push buttons, and we talked about how they had plenty of sweep for the door. You don't have to have that on every door in a school. However, if you don't have that, the door has to have 5 pounds or less of pressure. Now, can all the teachers please raise their hand and say, is your school door 5 pounds or is it 87,000 million pounds? Right? They're like, you have to have like 8 people and your leg and a crowbar to get them open. So what we're saying is that if an adult or a young person in a wheelchair came up and they couldn't open it with their hand, then it's not accessible. The point of it being accessible is that people with disabilities don't have to get somebody without a disability to open the door for them, right? And so I was getting my hair done today. I know that's shocking. So now I'm going everywhere. I'm going to order one of those hooks from Home Depot. Is this 5 pounds? Is this 5 pounds? Because most doors aren't 5 pounds, right? They're good for great, stopping weather conditions and all that, but it makes it inaccessible. So does every door at the school have to have that button or be accessible? No, but somebody got to have a door open. And so these are things that you're talking about. The other thing is go to your school, go to your elementary school, go to your junior high. What else do they have besides a playground? They have soccer fields. They have baseball fields. I know in Texas we got the football. Lots of football fields, right? And some of them are grass. So if you're in a wheelchair, can you wheel yourself out to the soccer area? No. And so the law says under 504 entitled to protections, denying the benefits of a program or an activity because a school's facilities are inaccessible. So if Billy, Sally, and Joey can all go play soccer and watch soccer, then everybody else at the school has to have equal access to get to the soccer field. I was looking at the soccer fields behind our kids' elementary school. I won't tell you where, Mossman in Clear Creek Independent School District. And it's just like, you just go down this hill and like, I think you go through a ditch. So they don't even have a sidewalk. So it's certainly inaccessible for individuals that use crutches, that use, any kind of, what is AFOs? I was going to say KFC, AFOs. Help me, Christina, what are they called? AFOs, FMOs, thank you. Gait trainer, walker, all of those things, crutches. You've got to at least have a flat surface, right? So they're not any of that, okay? So I want you to go and look at your campus, your facility, right? And start there. So this is not about money. Let me clear that up. Thank you, mobility aids. Somebody was way smarter than I am. This is not about money. This is about allocation of those funds. We have a $200 and something million football field, and I went there Sunday. I didn't break in. I just walked up. There's no breaking because that would mess up my hairdo. But somebody spent a lot of money on that building. But the building right next to it, which is the nutritional building for our school district, same doors. But you have signs that actually have a wheelchair on the sign. Have you ever noticed that? The disability parking sign is actually say it with me, it's a wheelchair. And you got a little wheelchair ramp, but somebody in a wheelchair can't get the door open. And so does that cost money? Yes. Is everybody on the planet have the same value? Yes. And so I'm asking you, I am very busy out here fighting crimes for the federal government. But I need you to join with me so that these public schools, we're just talking about public schools, that we are not denying the benefit of a program or activity because the school's facilities are inaccessible. So I want you to get on your bicycle because I know you guys are big exercisers. I know me and Laura we're bicycling, right? Well, I mean, the bicycle's in the car. But anyway, so I want you to go there and walk around. Is it accessible? Is every part of your property at your school accessible? If it's not, then I would consider joining our webinar. We're going to teach you exactly how to file these OCR complaints. And it's not about getting people in trouble. It's getting everyone to the same location, right? So just because you can go to school, do you know how many kids in wheelchairs between the ages of 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 12 have never, ever been outside? Forget on the playground. They don't go outside. And that's just unacceptable. It's been a requirement for 33 years since I was 5. Okay, maybe I wasn't 5. It's been a requirement for a long time. Okay? So the other thing that we're going to file on is failure to provide a free appropriate public education to an elementary school or secondary student with failure to provide a FAPE, free appropriate public education, to an elementary or secondary student with a disability. So what is a FAPE? So when OCR opens a case, they're looking at this phrase, failure to implement, okay? And so we're going to go over the process, because of course everybody's like, you're not telling the truth. They're not going to ask us for our documentation. Where's the law that says we have to have data? I don't know, have you ever dealt with the IRS? They have laws. And their data is the same kind of data the other federal entities ask for, and that's paperwork, right? So what part of the IEP did you not implement? Because there's lots of great teachers that have accommodations, but they don't write them down. They don't write them down. Why do you write the accommodations down? Because Karen might come to my IEP meeting. No, you write the accommodations down to see if they're effectual, right? And if you don't meet them, we get rid of them, right? Almost always when I get accommodations from somebody, there's 42 accommodations. I think, give me a number, Alicia. How many accommodations did your youngest have? Go ahead,
40,
Alicia. How
47.
many? 47. These teachers are amazing. So, and I said in the meeting, because I am lovely, I said, I don't think she's going to be able to implement.
I don't care which one.
Okay, we can still hear you, Alicia. But she doesn't care which one. So I'm pretty sure that a teacher can implement 47 accommodations for one child before she starts the class. So your accommodations, if you're a school-based member, make sure that they are whittled down, okay? So when I'm filing a complaint, I'm going to allege that Riley's accommodations were not implemented, and you didn't give Riley all of her special education service minutes. And to refute my allegation, the federal government's going to ask for what? Documentation to refute Ms. Cunningham's allegation. So you either have the documentation or you don't. I think we all know it's either written down or, say it with me, it didn't happen, right? And so we're going to talk about these two areas. Again, denying the benefits of a program or activity because of a school's facilities inaccessible. If a child is in a wheelchair, can they go into a standard bathroom and use the handicapped stall? They can. Can they reach the sink? Can they reach the soap? Can they reach the paper towel dispenser? Because it's either all accessible or it ain't accessible, right? It means that I can get in and I can use it with the same equity that individuals without disabilities use it, okay? We talked about the definition of a disability. And of course, OCR opens other things. We're not going to talk about age discrimination. I've never had a case for a child being discriminated based on age. Boy Scouts of America Equal Access Act, and that's because the bulk of Boy Scouts meet where? They meet at a public school. And so OCR enforcement. So the first thing I would tell you about OCR, if you're going to file, only file with OCR if you have not filed, say it with me, anywhere else. So most of my clients are just like me. They're very over the top and zealous, and they are like, I filed with the United Nations. I filed with Europe. I filed with Japan. I filed with the Panama Canal. I'm like, ma'am. And I'm just going to see who's going to open it up. No, we don't. That's not how we do it. You got to choose what entity you're going to file with, right? And so we've talked about this before. Different entities are going to get you different outcomes. State complaint, that'll probably get you some corrective action plan that the school district has to report back to the state. Due process, that's going to get you possibly some services for your students. It's $30,000, and the due process may or may not be implemented. But OCR, I feel like you get better gains. I do know that schools do not like the federal government coming in and doing, audits. And so I always give the school an opportunity to comply. I know that a lot of you on here have asked, well, should I go and do a presentation at the school board meeting? let me just tell you something, love. Your school board members are not unaware that they have to be compliant. That they are unbelievably aware that they have to be compliant. So this is poor planning on their part. Okay. And so there's many processes once you get into the OCR process that they can use. So the first thing that happens is I'm going to file a complaint. I am the complainant, and I'm going to say on there, am I filing a complaint on behalf of me, a group of people, or on somebody else? And so usually it's obviously somebody else. And so I'll put that student's name, and then I'll put my telephone number. Why? I do not want the OCR contacting the parent. Why? Parents have a tendency to talk outside of the legal specificity that OCR is looking for. And I don't mean that parents have an inability to talk, but your case can very quickly be thrown out, right? So if I get into my case and I say, okay, so Riley's accommodations weren't implemented, her service minutes weren't implemented, and I disagree with placement. It's over. Why? Because placement is not jurisdiction for OCR. I disagree with the eligibility, not their jurisdiction. And they are going to send you a dismissal letter and say, we feel very confident that you and the state of Texas will work this out together. Have a good day, right? And so when they ask you, Ms. Cunningham, do you have any more questions about Riley's complaint? The answer is, no, sir. No, ma'am, I sure don't, right? Because even though I might have a complaint about other sections of the document, if I say that, it's going to get it thrown out, okay? So when I file a complaint, I will file a complaint. I get consent from the parent on a separate sheet of paper because I'm not the parent. And that parent simply puts their name, the child's name, and signs it. And I have them email it back to myself and OCR at the same time, just ed@ocr.gov, so that I have it in my records. If the parent does not send in that consent form within 20 days, the case didn't get open, right? They're usually nice enough to reach back out to you and say, hey, Sarah, we didn't get your consent for, the Smith family. Can you please get that to us? They'll usually give you a couple days, but you've got to get it in on time. The OCR, although they're the federal government, I think that they might have dial-up. Sometimes I take a picture of a page like, we can't open the picture. So they really do like for you to fax it to them or scan them to it. So now they have a different processes now. At the very bottom, when you fill out the paperwork, there's a little box that says, would you be open to the early complaint process? Now for me, depending on the client and depending on the school and depending on how long the shenanigans go on, I might say absolutely. And some clients, I'm like, no, we're not interested in that. Because if you take the early complaint mediation process, what that does is that puts you into mediation with the client, with the school, which sounds great. However, if you don't settle, they dismiss your case. Well, hold on. And then reassign you another number. And it gives you sort of like a little heart palpitation, like Pearland Independent School District dismissed. And you're like, and then you realize they just gave them another number. Okay. So, it's really important which one you want to do. Now, OCR is a pregnancy. I don't know if you've ever been pregnant, but it's a long time. I'm working on an OCR case that was actually open for investigation in October of 2021. And they're still working on it. And so what you have to realize is that once they open a case, the school district has 180 days to investigate it. Now OCR has 180 days. That's half of a year, right? And now if the district comes along and says, hey, it's a busy time of the year, we're in 10 due processes or whatever, can we have an extension? Then it's my understanding, I don't know because I'm not a school district, that usually the OCR will grant them some sort of extension. So it could prolong it. So I'm just trying to give you sort of you got to have time on your hands. You have to have a good year if you're going to go the OCR route, okay? So some of their resolution tools are the early complaint resolution process. And so sometimes I'll just get a letter back, hey, Ms. Cunningham, we received your complaint for Dallas Independent School District, New York Independent, whatever it is. And we found it eligible or we flagged it for early resolution. I do a lot of complaints with them. And so once you get into, a rhythm with them, they'll know that you're, good to, do that process. And for some schools, I'm amenable to that. I had a school the other day that the investigation was open, and 2 days later director had signed off that she would settle with me. I was like, oh, we didn't even do no phone call, no lunch, no tuna on rice cakes. So anyway, so one of the complaint resolution tools is a full investigation and investigation determinations. So what does that look like? So I'm not going to ever know. So when they get my complaint, they will get my complaint and say, hey, we received your complaint for Griffiths. We would like to set up a phone call about your allegations, right? So I set up a phone call and we get in there and they say, so you said that he didn't get this. And here's what they're going to say to you. How can you prove that? And there's certain language that you have to know how to use, right? And so that could be everything from, well, Griffiths is 13 and he came home and he told us he doesn't have a neurological disability. He doesn't have an emotional disability. And we have emails back and forth going, when are you going to implement the IEP? When are you going to implement the 504? So I have proof that it didn't happen. If you look at your accommodations, most of them I could prove didn't happen, right? So let's say it says scaffold your work or chunk the assignment. Well, when that came home graded, I should be able to see a chunked assignment. But we don't see a chunked assignment. We see the same assignments that went home for everybody else, okay? Customer care service standards for OCR, and I really do find this to be true. Availability of OCR services, and you have to remember OCR is not on your side. They're not on the school side. They are a neutral party. They are fact finders. They're a federal investigation, but they're a neutral party trying to resolve the dispute between the two entities. They provide clarity for communication. They provide consideration for customers. They're courteous. They're fair. They're high quality. They have professionalism, promptness, communication about case status, and respond to questions. And I find all of that true. Now, if I open a case, I don't bother them. I don't want, because I can sometimes be a bother. But I might email after a couple months and say, hey, can you give me an update on Dallas Independent School District playgrounds that I filed December 2022, right? And I'll get a response. We are in the middle of investigations. When a school district is being investigated by the Office of Civil Rights for playgrounds, they literally go there and measure things. They're measuring things. So for instance, a playground, and I've learned all this from the OCR, the ramps that are wheelchair ramps on the playground to the equipment, to the floorboard of the wood chips, because that's enjoyable, has to be at a 5-degree incline. That's really low. That's very low. And the lower the incline, the longer you would need a ramp to get in there. So it's pretty amazing to learn all of these things. Okay. So that's OCR 101. You can go on the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights, and I think there's like a little recording that goes with it, but this is the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights, OCR 101. Okay? So this is going to be your OCR Bible. This is the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights, CPM. So you guys need to all go and print one of these out. The U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights, screenshot that, because I know you young kids know how to do that. Case Processing Manual, CPM, and it was updated in July of this, I feel like it's this year, of 2022, okay? So I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but before you file a case, you need to have read this so that you'll understand the processes. Now, I would say that when people have an interview with OCR that are not advocates or not attorneys, they feel like the person on the other end of the line was abrupt, short with them. I don't know they're abrupt or short with you. They're very serious, all business. They're not joking around. They're not going to ask you how the weather is in Houston, how you doing in the ice storm. They're literally, hi, Miss Cunningham, I have your for, Allen Independent School District, case number 101. I have some questions. Boom. They just get right into it. So when you have a meeting set up with this, and you don't need an attorney, when you have a meeting set up, you better have all your stuff out and ready to go. Don't be driving down the road going, hey, how's it going? Did you watch the Grammys? Don't do that, because they're going to ask you specific questions. So I'm going to be going, okay, Mr. Smith, I'm going to send you the copy of the IEP. So right now I'm talking about page 11 of 14, and I'm going to walk you through the accommodations that I'm alleging were not implemented. I am going to walk you through on page 13, the schedule of services page, the services that were not implemented. So as I'm having the interview with the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights Federal Investigator, I'm describing to him which pages I'm on. Because just like the school, he's going to ask me for some paperwork. He's not going to ask me my opinion. Okay? Now, when you file the complaint, it says two things. Do you have evidence to support your allegations? So, of course, I always say, of course, I have paperwork to support my allegations. It also says, do not send any of that right now. And that's what they mean. Follow their instructions and you'll have a lot more traction with them. People want to send their whole life's work, you know, a clip of baby hair, a marriage certificate. That's not necessary, okay? So first is the evaluation process, right? So they receive your complaint. If they have enough information, they're going to move it to their team to consider investigation. If not, they're going to call you, and especially if you're new at doing some of this, right? And they're going to say, so Sarah, they're going to describe the OCR complaint process, and they're going to say, have you ever filed a complaint? You're going to go, no, and your voice is going to change, right, several octaves. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? And they're going to walk through it. So if you're new at this, it's going to be about like an hour. So don't just be like, oh, I've got 10 minutes between my next client. Don't do that, okay? So they're going to talk to you to determine if it goes to the investigation team. That is a team of people. You're going to talk to somebody on the phone, but it's a team of people that's going to say, hey, I talked to Sarah. She gave me this, this, and this. What does the team think? Does this warrant opening this for an investigation? And almost always all of mine get opened, only because I've learned how to do it wrong over the years and gave them too much information. They don't like a bunch of information. They just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts, right? So you'll get a letter in about a month. Usually it's not quick, and it'll say letter of notification, or you'll get letter of dismissal. You don't want the second one. You want the letter of notification. And what is the notification? They're notifying you. Like I have one right here. Dear Miss Cunningham. I like that. Well, it's two last names because, you know, I've had the two husbands. So the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights Dallas office has resolved, this is actually a resolution letter, has resolved the complaint that you filed against Independent School District in Texas. It actually says that. You allege the district discriminated against students based on disability when it failed to implement certain provisions of the student's IEP during the spring and fall of 2020 semesters. OCR enforces this. OCR initiated investigation of this complaint pursuant to OCR's rapid resolution process, and has expedited these cases. Whether the district, and they relist the allegation. During the process of the complaint, OCR spoke with you and the district. OCR also reviewed the documentation that you provided OCR. So many paper clips. And you indicated that she was not a qualified individual, and you indicated, that you provided. OCR's investigation revealed that the student currently attends blank grade at blank elementary school. The student's educational records indicate that she's a qualified individual with a disability who requires specialized services and accommodations due to her two disabilities. You allege the district failed in the following ways. The use of her voice output communication device. Can we just talk about that? Let's just talk about that. Okay? If a child has a voice output communication device, it is imperative that the teachers that teach her have the same ability to communicate on that device as they do with spoken language with the other students. I cannot tell you that enough, okay? So I allege that they didn't use the VOCD because if you're not using it in all ways, in all areas, in all settings, you're not using it. I said that she was denied 60 minutes a day of direct instruction in this room for ELA, math, science, and social studies. Why did I allege that? Because you didn't use her voice output communication device. So you took away her voice in that class, so the minutes weren't delivered. I allege that there were no concrete reinforcers. Why? Because I can see those and get a copy of those. I allege there were no visual cues, a core board for communication. That doesn't exist. I allege that music therapy wasn't implemented and assistive technology services were not implemented. Okay? These are all things that I had on the thing. On January 24th, the district submitted the enclosed signed resolution agreement. When fully implemented, the agreement will resolve the allegations in this complaint. So on their own, they complied with a 302. A 302, don't I sound all fancy, is when the district enters into an agreement on the OCR exempt of you, right? So they entered into this agreement saying, we're going to resolve all this. And then it says by, so that's their letter. And then there's a separate letter. And it says by, these are action items for the district. Of course, I'm not going to read to the district. It says, by this date, the district will convene a meeting, blah, 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 and do the following things. And then by this date, the district will provide OCR with a copy of a letter that teaches you, that shows you what they did to resolve it, right? So the requirement for resolution is on the school district to the parent. And I get a lot of liberty with those things that I'm asking for because they want to resolve it. So you also have to know that OCR complaints are public record. And the great Christina knows, but there's a link that will show you all the open OCR complaints in your district or the United States, and no school wants that left open. So that's a complaint letter, but they email you and then they'll say, let's say you just did a regular investigation, and they'll say, Ms. Cunningham, we've opened up, you allege this, whether or not the district discriminated against a student, and then did the following things, and then they'll say, we've decided that we have jurisdiction over this, and we're going to open the complaint. And then that process is where you got to just sit tight and wait on them. And a myriad of things can happen in that process. They could interview you again. They could say, okay, the Office of Civil Rights has reached out to Elm Elementary School, and they actually did provide us documentation, right? So then I'm going to say what? I want a copy of that documentation. Because a lot of times it's documentation by, let's say Laura sent in her documentation, but Bonnie and Sarah didn't. So then I'm going to say, great. I'm going to need the same documentation from the other two teachers. And then the OCR investigator will kind of go back between you and the school district. Not so much you, because you don't have any new allegation to add. However, during this process, it says very clearly at the bottom of all OCR letters that during this process, really anytime, that the school district cannot discriminate against the parent, the student, or the complainant. Now, I'm always the complainant because I like complaining. I'm the complainant because I want to handle the interviews and the questions with the district. The parents usually come in at some point in the end sort of to verify my complaint or the allegations. But for the purposes of the investigation, I handle it with the OCR investigator. So I just had an investigation that went, we had the initial call, and then we had another call with me and the mom, and then we had another call with me and the mom and the cousin, and then we had another call with me and the mom and the cousin and the child. So you have to know that if they're old enough and they have the cognitive ability, the OCR has full jurisdiction to interview your child. And so we did that by phone, and the child was amazing. So the interviewer, he was saying, well, did this happen? She's like, nope. It was great. She has a couple of disabilities, and she has this great flat affect, and nope. So it was really great. And so this investigator additionally flew out to the school and was there in person for 1, 2, 3 days. And so I don't know what that's like to have a federal attorney in your school building for 3 days, but I feel like these people aren't sending me a Christmas gift. I could be wrong. They're probably just wrapping it right now. Okay? So you've got to be patient. You got to be patient. If you're not patient, you might ruin the whole thing. And what I mean by that is I've had some clients that jumped the wagon and called and said, do you want some more information? Do you want me to send you more copies? No. So we don't do that. Okay? So you want to follow the OCR's lead. Again, if I'm going to ask any questions of them while I'm waiting, I'm just going to say, hey, Miss Smith, or Mr. Smith, or I just always say good afternoon, good morning, and I learned that from them. They always say good afternoon and good morning, so I copied them. I'm not educated, but I'm a great copier. Good afternoon. Is there anything else that you need from us? And a lot of time they will say, yes, I want the recording from the September 12th meeting. OCR loves a recording. And I'll say, oh, great. At 8:14 was when the special ed director said that Nicholas doesn't even warrant ADA consideration. And they're like, what? So I always tell you guys to record, right? And there's, I think, 7 states now that are a two disclosure state. So I'm always going to record for purposes of myself. I'm not going to ever use that in a due process or a state complaint. But I can tell you, I'm certainly not telling you to break any state laws, but in the states where you can record, I record on otter.ai, and then I can just go back and go, oh, well, at 13 minutes and 11 seconds, the district said, yeah, she didn't have your IEP, right? And so those might be phrases that I need for my filings. I just had I have a recording that I just got from a parent that is gold. It's gold, it's gold, it's gold, right? They're not going to put that in the deliberations. They're not going to type it out. But people say some goofy stuff in a meeting. And so we were just in a meeting, and I said, you had a meeting in November, and the parent asked, why are you implementing Cindy's IEP? And the teacher said, well, that's because I don't have a copy of it. Oh, I'm sorry, it's November, right? And so when we got back to the meeting, I had the parent say that again. I wasn't at that meeting, and it's captured on a recording that she says, they say, well, we sent her a copy of it. So they don't deny it, nor do they confirm it. But that's good enough, to not respond is to yell. And so I know that's a lot of information. We're going to set up a formal, I don't even know what a formal, but we're going to set up a webinar so you guys can register. You can have the recording after the webinar. You can ask questions. We can send in questions early. But it's such an important process. I see lots of other advocates over here on the thread. Thanks you guys for being on here that use this process. We have to use whatever dispute resolution option that we have available to us that is effectual in our state. And maybe in your state, due process is crushing it. I'm in Texas where due process is a lot of money, not a lot of movement. So Texas ranks 50th in special education delivery services out of 50. And so that's an instrument that we use a lot, OCR. And I find for right now, for purposes of today, that it gets a lot more gains. So I did want to open it up for some questions. I know that's a lot of information on a Wednesday night when you guys are all in a sugar coma. Here's the real question. Did you get candy from your children? I did not get any. I don't have any children at home, so I got no candy. But if you have questions around OCR, I certainly want to open it up for a few minutes and answer those. The great Bonnie or the great Shannon or the great, all the greats, are there any OCR questions that you guys see? It's just me and you.
I have one.
Yeah.
Someone asked if you could sue the school district after you file an OCR complaint.
So there's no such thing as suing a school district any more than you could sue a police department, or you could sue the courthouse, or you could sue any government entity. They are unbelievably protected. So if you're going to trigger and use one of your dispute resolution options, you have to remember that it's your child with a disability filing alleged violation against the district, the state, or to a federal entity, and depending on those parameters. Now, if you're suing based on, obviously I'm not going to answer a question that I answered. So I have a client right now that is considering suing based on discrimination, but that's a different kind of lawsuit. It's different than what we do. So these sorts of things are administrative decisions as it relates to due process or federal filings with the Office of Civil Rights.
All right. Another question is: do you need a lawyer to file OCR?
You don't need anybody. You can file yourself.
Someone asked, what is a 2 disclosure state? What does that mean?
So Texas is a 1 disclosure state, which means if I'm having a phone call with Sarah, and Sarah and I are both allegedly over 18, and neither one of us have a cognitive disability, and I'm recording, I don't have to disclose that to her. So there's just a handful of states that are a 2 disclosure state. Virginia, Florida, Missouri are 2 disclosure states, meaning that you would have to get that other person's consent to record.
Perfect. And then someone asked if it is still effective to file an OCR if the child is a senior in high school.
Absolutely. If the crime was committed, it was committed. And somebody asked what the app was. I just use otter.ai, OTTER.ai. It's free for 540 minutes. I don't know where they got that number. And then I think it's $10 a month for 6,000 minutes. I record everything. Everything.
Will OCR cover complaints of not assessing within 60 days?
That's a really good question, and we're going to address that in the webinar. There is a way to file as it relates to initial special ed testing.
Sorry. Can you be in mediation and file an OCR?
No. Only one entity will look at it. And each entity is going to say to you, do you have this complaint open somewhere else? Now, that being said, if I filed due process because you didn't implement his BIP, and then I filed an OCR complaint that your playground's not accessible, those are two totally different things. But I would not muddy the water. That's interesting that the great Sarah said Missouri is a one-party state, because in all their meetings they tell me that they're a two-party state. But I'm sure nobody's ever lied to me in a special ed meeting. That never happens, right? No.
Yes. Someone asked if... Oh, see, you made me... Oh, here it is. They would like to file an OCR due to a FERPA violation. Can you do that?
So you would file a FERPA violation with FERPA.
And then someone said, do most OCR complaints get ignored?
I don't know that I don't think any of them get ignored. I think that they're dismissed, and I'm only assuming. I would assume most people are lay people and parents or individuals and file very passionately, and they file outside of their jurisdiction, so they get a letter dismissing it. So in that way, if you would say ignored, then I would say yes for ignored.
And then people are asking, how do they join the webinar?
With your webinar heart.
You opened a can of worms.
I am a can of worm opener. My apologies. So we don't even have a date for the webinar, but it's going to be soon.
Just in our lives, and then as soon as we have a date, I'll have a link in her bio.
It'll be within 2 weeks. Yeah. Sorry. I just realized, there's just so much stuff to unpack from OCR that I want you guys to have an understanding of how to file, what to file. But you have got to limit OCR to accommodations and services. Just stay there for now, stay in your lane, or you're filing on the playground.
Okay, and then I know you just want to answer questions centered around OCR. You're getting a lot of other questions.
Okay, let's just do it.
Okay, are you ready then?
I'm ready.
Can a school remove a child if the parents don't agree with a new IEP?
Can they remove a child? So if the parent disagrees with the IEP meeting twice, whatever the LEA says goes.
Okay. What do you do when they lie about data gathered and then when challenged, they correct it?
So I've never actually seen that happen. We have a very robust records request that we have that is available to anybody in the academy. I've never seen fake data. I'm sure it exists, but I have seen data where it's exactly perfect for a year, which is kind of funny. If you were going to fill out a data sheet for a year, it would look like it wouldn't look perfect, but it's hard to prove that.
This is a good OCR question. Is there a time to file after the violation occurred?
Yeah, you can only file 180 days back. That's a good question. So right now we are on August 18th to today. Yes, the webinars are free.
My birthday.
Happy birthday. Is it your birthday?
No, my birthday's April 13th. I thought you said April 18th. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I'm tired.
Can we just all sing happy birthday? Happy birthday, little Alicia. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Don't ask for it again in April.
What is a sped parent to do when you constantly get pulled to sub in gen ed classes?
So either your services were implemented or they're not, which is a lot of our OCR cases. If teachers are out for IEP meetings, or they're out because they're sick, or they're out whatever, it's called failure. You didn't implement the IEP and the conformity that we agreed to.
Okay. I think the question was like, as a para, what do they do when they're getting pulled?
Do you want to stay a school-based member?
Just go with the flow.
Go with the flow.
Yeah. Does my child's IEP still get met if they are suspended?
Not if they're out of school suspension, but if it's in school suspension, there's a responsibility to do that. It's very rare that your child gets out of school suspension or they get expelled.
Heidi said to go back and read her question, but I don't know where her question is. Heidi, just ask it again. I'll read it. How do you recommend schools get more funding to support students?
Schools have plenty of funding. 85% of the funds in a school district are spent on people at the administration building that do not teach children.
So I find the schools set great goals, but really never talk to my son of ways to meet them. Suggestion?
I would ask them, how do you implement my child's IEP? That's what I would ask.
Okay, this one's a good one. What is the difference between an autistic school material and a public school material?
I don't know what that means.
Me neither.
Okay.
I thought it was a good one because I didn't know what
it is. Good.
All right, I think Bonnie says she's going to take over.
She's happily muted. You just thought she wanted to take over. Now she's like, why'd you do that?
Right. Did I put that in the chat? Okay. These are all just comments, but you are getting some love. Lots of people saying thanks so much, Sped Boss, for all the information. So good training. Can IEP accommodations be left out on state tests?
So when you're looking at a state or district assessment, those are called allowable accommodations. Every single accommodation is not allowed in district assessment or state assessments, but you have that conversation in the IEP meeting.
And who do we contact to hire you?
And just reach out to admin@specialeducationacademy.com.
And I am over 18 plus, I guess, the high school students, and want a psychoeducational evaluation. What rights do I have?
I mean, are you still in school? Are you in the 18 to 21 program?
They didn't say.
They said earlier they're in the 18 to 21 program.
Okay, so they're a student in there.
Right. So if you're a student that doesn't have guardianship from somebody else, then you could sign your own notice and consent. If your parents or somebody else has guardianship, they would have to sign that notice and consent for testing.
Okay. As a teacher, how can I support an EC student when the SLP is out on maternity leave?
You can't. So you'll have to just log those minutes that were gone, the days that are gone, and ask for compensatory time. Remember, compensatory time is not the time that was missed. It's time to compensate the student for the IDEA violation that occurred.
How long do they have to do an independent evaluation in OT?
A gazillion years. There are no timelines for an IEE for a myriad of reasons.
Okay, my son's preschool has no ABA instructor right now and has not for 7 weeks. How long is too long?
A day. A day is too long. So, if the service isn't delivered, I'm going to be asking the director or at least the principal for compensatory time.
Okay, and how do you know that your student is receiving SDI by looking at their assignment?
Well, first you would say, where is it documented on the assignments that the modifications have taken place? And I'm going to ask the teacher, can you tell me what strategies you're teaching him to mitigate the impact of his disability so that I can replicate that, right? So that I can work, the grandparent or the tutor or me and dad or me and mom can work on the same things that you're working on.
Okay, and can you kind of define what compensatory time is?
Sure. So compensatory time is not talked about in IDEA. However, most administrative hearing officers, two-tiered fact finder, or appellate judges, or district circuit courts would consider in case law compensatory time is when we provide time to the student to return them back to where they would have been had the IDEA violation never occurred.
Okay, and currently in due process, which has taken 7 to 8 months. Any recourse against the Board of Education after we are through?
No, but if you have it, please tell us.
Okay. Can a parent revoke established SPED services if the rest of the ER disagrees with the revoking?
The parent is the one that can give or revoke consent. Special ed testing and special ed services are consensual, like a marriage. So parents, in probably 26 years, I've sat at tables where twice parents have revoked consent, and it was devastating to me. I'm sure I got in my car all snotty. And both of them, one revoked consent based on religious beliefs, and one revoked consent based on, I would say, their cultural beliefs. And so that student did not have any goals, service times, or really protections under just general ed. It was sad.
Okay.
Heidi, we are all waiting for your question. You cannot say it was already answered.
I know, I don't see her question.
Yeah, Heidi, is your question about how do you get your hair big for a cheerleading competition? I would like that. I think I need a big IEP bow. I feel like we should do that. May the bow be with you.
Can parents pick and choose services they want for their students' IEP? For example, deny social work services.
You know, obviously this is a school-based member. It's not about picking and choosing. Sometimes, let's take physical therapy, for instance. I love physical therapists. It's very rare that I've ever seen a physical therapist service at a school be beneficial to a student. So I might direct the client and say that we agree that he meets eligibility criteria for physical therapy. However, we are going to, put a pause on those services for now. Because at the end of the day, you could have a kiddo that has music therapy, physical therapy, braille, vision, and their whole day is in related instructional services. So somebody said, is compensatory time always received 100% of what was missed? So I would not call that compensatory time. So let's look at the root word, compensate. 100% of the time given back is what? That's replacement time. So always do 1.5. Although they tried to trick me up the other day, and we got services for 60 hours. And I said, we want time and a half because I'm really smart. And I went to school in a covered wagon. And she goes, what would that be? And I'm not kidding. I was like, 105. Is that half of 6? I was like 60, and then you add and you yeah. And she just looked at me. I was like, 90. 90. So I always ask for 1.5. And then we dictate how those minutes are delivered. Listen to me. When somebody says, hey, we'll give you ESY in the summer, love. That's not compensatory time. That means you're just going to go in there with all the other amazing ESY kiddos.
I think Heidi's question was around, what do you think of a child missing recess for not completing their work?
I think that you should bonk somebody in the leg with a pool noodle twice, and they don't get a teacher gift. That's ridiculous. If you're a teacher, you want those kids to go outside and move it. That doesn't even make sense to me.
I think from the question earlier, she might have clarified. What she was asking is, what better resources does an autistic school have versus a public school?
So it sounds like that's a private school. So each private school has great specificity in what they do. So there are, in Houston, a little tiny city that we have here, there's a great school called Monarch. They are for autism and intellectual disabilities. There is Gateway, which is for really about teenagers that have ADHD or autism. There is the Parish. There's Tuttle. There's Briarwood. Those places take a lot of money, and they're good at what they do. I've never seen a private school that provides the same depth and breadth that a public school can. However, I always say there's no better setting than a public school. When we get it right for the child, we don't always get it right for the child. So I would assume an autism school is going to give great social skills, great services to mitigate the acuity of the child's disability.
Are there other reasons for there to be ESY other than regression on goals?
Well, that's a fantastic question. So ESY is two-pronged. Prong number one, which we're always going to talk about, is documented regression on IEP goals with a profound amount of time to recoup them. Or number two is concern for loss of critical skills, which is hard for you to beat me on, right? So is that 9-week break going to make Jude lose his skills that he's learned on his voice output communication device, right? I don't find a lot of schools that have documented, did I say that? Regression on IEP goals. I don't find that a lot.
My son doesn't have his teacher aide in class for 4 days. What can I say if they are short-staffed? Well,
it's not about saying, it's about tracking, right? So I have a kiddo that I advocated this week. I won't tell you where. It's a state that has water by it. You figure that out. And I opened the meeting. Well, I didn't open the meeting because, I'm so sweet and calm and nice in the meeting. And she said, "Do the parents have any concerns?" And the parent is a teacher there. I have so many clients that are teachers. And I said, "We're concerned that the special ed teacher has been absent for 32 days and this is the 103rd day of school." And they said, "Okay, let's look at present levels." And I said, "Oh, no." I said, "So you just asked for parent concerns and then you didn't respond." And I said, to not respond is to yell. So I'd rather you say, "We don't care. Just kidding." We just asked that because it's the paperwork. If you want to know their concerns, you should respond to that. So it was very quiet. I don't mind quiet, but it's really painful for other people when I'm not talking. Really painful. And so I said, "Are you going to fix that? Or are you trying to hire somebody new?" And there was like this, it probably was only 4 seconds. He goes, his voice went up to like a 12-year-old boy. He's like, "Hire." Okay, great. He's going to hire somebody. Now this lady was she logged in by Zoom. And it's kind of problematic that she hasn't been there. Oh, look at that little crowd. 32 of the 100-something days, because she had one IEP goal for this student, for her to read at 90 words per minute, which sounds good, except for, say it with me, she reads at 26 words a minute. And I said, and I'm not sarcastic in meetings. I have a little fun with you guys here. I'm like, "So where did you get that number?" She goes, "I just felt like it was a good number." Oh my God. I said, "Well, she's going to be in second grade next year, so 90 words a minute would be above grade average." Oh my God. As a college dropout, sometimes it's hard for me to tell. I said, "Maybe we should have a baseline." "What do you mean?" Sometimes I feel like I am about to get the Academy Award of the Year, and Ashton Kutcher's going to jump out and go, "Just kidding." And so this other lady goes, "I have her baseline." She goes, "On this test, she did 26. On this test, she did 27. So it took her 7 years to read at 26 words a minute. She's probably not going to read 90 words per minute going into junior high. And these are just conversations you have to have with your parents. You have to look at probability, rate of progress, instead of just like 90, right? And plus she has a sensory disability, so there's that. Yeah. This is what I mostly use in my meetings. This, and then scratching out. Highlight. I do not bring a pool noodle to meetings. I don't get in pools because that would mess up my hairdo. but we should start selling them. And they should say the special education boss, ba-bam. Like a nice little soft fly swatter where you can just reach over and pump people with it. Write that down, Alicia. I think we need a ba-bam.
I'm writing it down.
Thank you. Yeah. And then they can come in all colors so it can match your outfits.
It's all written in.
Yeah. One side says,
Visible
great
notes
job.
on
And the other side says, stop talking.
So can I address a comment?
Yes. This is my natural hair color. Was that the... No?
No, that's not the comment. I want to address it as a teacher and a parent.
Okay.
Okay, so we get a lot of comments about teacher shortages.
Yes.
And as a teacher and a parent, I completely understand that you're seeing a shortage in your school. However, that is not the parent's fault.
I'm not sorry. Somebody told me to look at my phone. Okay, sorry. If you want to, Heidi just sent me an email. I'm sorry. It's Heidi's fault.
Anyway, so as a parent, my nonverbal autistic son has not had a special education teacher all year long.
All year.
All year long.
All year.
So.
And we said it in the meeting. You know what they said? Nothing.
Yeah, so as a parent, it is very heartbreaking that my autistic son is now regressing because he does not have a teacher in the classroom. That is not taking away how amazing his substitute is and everything she is trying to do.
Yeah.
But he is not a certified teacher. And so as a teacher, I understand and see the shortage. But it is not an excuse because my child is regressing because they don't have the staffing. And that goes all the way up to admin because I quit my district because my special education department was not advocating for their teachers.
Right. And let me just speak to that.
I completely understand that there's a shortage, but it's the admin's fault.
Right.
And
there's not...
Oh,
go ahead.
One thing to add in, like, there's a huge teacher shortage, and I'm a teacher too, and so, but we never noticed there's never a shortage of admin at the top. Like, is there ever a shortage of the admin building? Just my 2 cents.
Is there ever a shortage for the, are there any shortages for volleyball coaches? No. And all of my kids played, I think, every sport there was. So we live in America. We got money for Chick-fil-A, Sonic. So I think it's gross when they're like, oh, ABC school district, this superintendent came and read to the kindergartners. What? What? Right? I had a client and she said, you guys have end of the school year teacher appreciation, right? And she said, I think this was like in New Jersey, right, Alicia? Anyway, she said her principal had a big soiree on a Friday that they were going to get them lunch, she thought, or whatever. And it was a big banner when they walked in. Franks for thanks. I'm sorry, what? Franks for thanks. I said, you mean hot dogs? In Texas, we would have got you some barbecue. Like, are you... I wouldn't have people to my house and do that. We are so awful to teachers. They're mostly females. They often work for men. And they do all of this work. Somebody said they got a bucket of apples. Did you throw them?
Except for Caesar and Demetrius. They're amazing men in that teaching field.
Yes, we love Caesar and Demetrius, right? So I just, it's, we were talking in a training the other day. I feel like some teachers, the school setup is like, you're going to be mad at me for this, but everybody's already mad at me anyway. It's like slavery. Like, you guys have, like, drank I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 teachers. Like, y'all all, once y'all got out, got some oxygen, y'all all drank the Kool-Aid. I mean, you're, whatever, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no problem. You're not even allowed to say anything. You're not even allowed to say anything to your boss. I mean, if I didn't do this, I would wait tables because I like people. But I can't imagine not being able to go to my boss and saying, we're low on ketchup, we need more silverware. You're doing a great job. No, we don't have any ketchup or silverware. And I don't know, as a business owner, if I treated the people I trained or that are my vendors this way, I'd be out of business. Like, be nice to your teachers. Like, pick up some donuts. Like, vacuum their car out. Do something.
I spoil my kids' teachers so much at Christmas, like, because I know how it is.
Yeah.
Even the enrichment teachers, okay, guys, we see you, okay?
Yes, and the PayPal, the paraprofessionals. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am so good, I would get my teachers hairspray, because that's what y'all need. Y'all need more apple candles. Can we stop with the candles? We need some hairspray.
Yeah, so we have one person, and I think they may have missed the answer to their question, so I just want to make sure he gets it. So he's an 18-year-old who's in the 18 to 21 program, remember? How does he get, I'm sorry, my kids are coughing. How does he get his evaluation, his educational eval? What are his rights?
So they're your records. Then just say, I would email, just like if you were my client, I would say, please provide me a copy of my educational records. Anything that has my name on it or my student ID. Please let me know where I can pick them up. And just do it in an email. Don't do it any other way. Okay, Heidi is breathing into a paper bag.
Heidi, she can't check her messages when she's on live. So if you want your questions answered, you just got to type them into the chat.
Or you could email Sizzle. I'm just kidding.
Please read. What is the law in being transparent to parents, lack of services because of a shortage?
I don't know what that means. So let me just talk about shortage in special ed. My child started special education in 1997. Most of y'all were not even part of a thought yet. There was a shortage then. There's always been Muffin. Thank you. There's always been a shortage, Muffin and Buttercup, in special education. You know why? If you're the special education director, we don't ever go, hey, we won regionals this year. We're going to state. It's not a love fest job, right? And none of your kids mostly are going to make a school board meeting photo op, right? Nobody, brought my kid out in high school and said, hey, he reads 5 years behind, right? So God bless great people in special education. They're everywhere. But we have a few little Napoleons that need to be bonked on the head with a pool noodle. Did you see her question, Alicia?
No, she told us as admins go back and find them, but we can't. We've all scrolled back. We can't see the comments, so she can ask again or she can email you. So how to introduce release my child to a school who specializes in behavioral issues.
So you can ask for out-of-district placement based on the inability for the school district to not deliver your child a free, appropriate public education. Okay, here we go. Recess taken away for weeks, did not finish work product conduct with IEP accommodations. You can't take away recess from kids in elementary school. Like, I would email your friend, Dr. Justin Porter, and say, what the Hello Kitty is going on? And no normal teacher would want their kid inside for recess. So I would take that all the way up to the director.
Now people want to buy your pool noodles, Karen.
They will be on the website next week.
No, they won't. Yes, sir, you can ask your question again. If you think it was misunderstood, just reword it. It's kind of hard to know what you mean in a comment. This one's got diamonds. See, y'all just put some emojis. Don't make me pay attention. Second language with severe dyslexia. Can we get out of it?
Can we get out of dyslexia?
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. And then my son's school forces him to get out of his wheelchair and into a desk. Is that illegal?
So if you agreed on adaptive seating, then if you're in a wheelchair, you don't just slide into a desk. You would need adaptive seating, and that would have been approved by the physical therapist.
Yes. One says, what about making them, quote unquote, walk laps during recess if they don't complete work? That's how Louisiana gets around it.
You know what? I might take my cell phone and go up to the escuela and go live on the TikTok if that was happening to my kid.
Yeah. Someone said, should teachers document on all school work what accommodations were given for that assignment?
That's a good place to put the accommodations, for sure. And then I'm going to take like 4 or 5 more questions, and then I have to, I have to finish mopping the floors of the castle.
Okay.
I think the young man who was talking about the psycho evaluation, that psycho ed evaluation, I don't think he wanted a copy of it. I think he wants to know he needs another evaluation. How can he get that?
Yeah, so just email the school and say, I'm requesting an evaluation in all areas. Please let me know where I can sign notice and consent.
He also asked if he could hire you as his advocate.
Aw. We are happy to help you and support you in any way, either myself or one of the team members. So just email us at admin@specialeducationacademy.com.
Okay, yeah. So the back to the second language and dyslexia. She wants to know if she can get taken out of the second language.
That's hard. That goofy second language is hard to get out of. I had a kiddo that was adopted from Russia, speaks perfect English, but he's dyslexic, and he's never gotten out of Tell Pass.
Okay, how many days does the school have to set up a 504 meeting after a dyslexia diagnosis?
The law says a reasonable time. So if they've never contacted you to have the meeting, that's one thing. But sometimes it takes a while for both parties to get on the same schedule to meet.
Okay. All right. Are you ready?
Are you ready? I'm ready.
Last one?
Yes, last 6. Yeah.
This one's from you said, ma'am?
Ma'am, sorry.
Teacher. Reading disability. Can I develop a reading goal across academic areas for high school?
You can have a reading goal and then decide who the general ed and special ed teacher are that are going to implement the goal. But I wouldn't expect every core teacher to work on a reading goal. I certainly wouldn't expect the algebra teacher to work on it.
Yeah. Okay.
And somebody keeps asking about snapshots, and I'm not a fancy teacher, so I'm not really sure what that means.
Oh, a snapshot is when a principal comes in unannounced for like 15 minutes and just takes a quote-unquote snapshot of your class and how you're teaching. Oh. I don't know what the question was about.
Yeah. And somebody asked if I ever deal with College Board. No, they are out of control. I mean, I deal with College Board because I have kiddos testing, but they make special ed look like a cakewalk.
That's the young man that's 18 in the dual program. Can a SPED teacher be pulled to teach gen ed?
If they're not delivering SPED minutes. Oh, snapshots and IEP at a glance. No, that.
Oh, that snapshot. See, I went teacher brain, like a principal coming in and observing me snapshot.
Yeah. Of course, if you're implementing the IEP, the paras have to have it. That's what I file on all the time, that the paras were denied access to the IEP. And if the paras denied access to the IEP, they can't implement the accommodations. And I can prove that to the OCR because we send out this thing called the teacher bundle. You guys know about the teacher bundle? Yeah.
So this one has Tori asked, where do you file a SOAH complaint?
SOAH, State Office of Administrative Hearings. So in Texas, SOA handles due process cases for special education. Every state has a different entity. So you would email TEA, Texas Education Agency, and ask for their email. I think I kind of have it memorized, but it's legal, so you want to make sure that you get the right email.
I'm sorry, but Bonnie and Laura will think this is funny. Somebody said, if your principal comes in, tell them, great, you've arrived just in time to help scribe.
That's funny.
Okay, all right.
I actually do that.
Or you came in just in time to turn on the grill for the Franks.
Yeah, for the Franks. Franks for thanks.
Franks for thanks. What if we made a shirt that said "No thanks for your francs"?
Yeah. Are staff required to toilet a student with an IEP if he has an accident?
I hope humans just do that. If a child has an accident, are we not going to... Yes.
IEP or not, I mean, kids have accidents.
That's going to leave us aromatherapy in the room I'm not interested in, and plus the child could get a rash and infection.
Yep.
I'm going to answer this. What should a SPED teacher do if behaviors are impeding services of another student? So I have a teacher that almost walked out this week because she's told the district 100 times and the campus won't do anything. So, yes, if a child's behavior, disability, characteristics are impeding other kiddos' learning, then you have to take that into consideration for sure.
So, Alexis sent 3 emojis. She listened. She knows how to get my attention now. Should IEP meetings be during teacher prep periods?
You know what? I would like to have all of my meetings during your prep periods. But here's the deal. Once my book fills up, it fills up. I know everybody wants to meet at 8 and everybody wants to meet at 1. Guess what? I only have 5 1s a week, unless we're going to move into Saturdays. So I'm certainly going to try to find a time that's amenable. Rarely does an IEP meeting fit into one period. So you're going to have to get coverage anyway.
All right. I'm taking 2 more questions.
You are? Okay, so somebody said like 15 times, denying an IQ test for a child with Down syndrome. Thoughts? So I would be very clear when I get an IQ test for a child with Down syndrome that I would ask for the unit or the Lightner because they usually have a profound speech impairment and that could affect the impact of the scores. Okay.
I just love all the emojis. Okay. Kelly's or Kel's.
Look, living life lost their mind. They crossed the emoji. That's good.
All right. Kel's said, my son was just tested at school and they suspect autism. What does that mean now?
Well, if they did the testing, then they would have either met criteria for special education for an eligibility like autism, or he didn't. So I don't know what they would say. Maybe they haven't done the report yet. Maybe that's what it is. But the report should say whatever criteria he met. Now, then it goes before the IEP committee to determine if we agree with that eligibility.
So what you do now is you just wait for the evaluation report.
Unless you're in Louisiana.
Breath, take a drink, and then go
I did not say that. Somebody else.
I did. All right, here's some more stars for me. Thoughts on ED identification for a kindergartner? I mean, did I say ID? I said ED. ED.
Yeah, so there's kiddos that are identified NCEC ID or NCEC ED at 3, 4, and 5. If they meet eligibility, they meet eligibility. You know, the great Tiffany talks a lot. Her daughter in the Dallas area, I think, was identified ED at 2.5. So if you meet the criteria,
Jessica,
you meet the criteria.
I seen your question earlier, and then Karen cut me off. So here it is. Ready?
We're having a dialogue dance, ma'am. There was no cutting off.
That's right. That's right. Can accommodations be developed for home behaviors?
No. The IEP is implemented at school or the educational setting. Now, if she's homebound and there is an accommodation that needs to be implemented because her instruction is homebound, then yes.
All right. I said 2 more questions. All right. You just got quiet.
Somebody said, have you ever been hired by a teacher for an ARD that they are the case manager? I was just hired by a teacher who is the special ed curriculum director for a school district with over 6 figures of students. And let me tell you, when she did her opening statement, I was like, oh, there's that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I do believe this is an important question.
Somebody said, are those new pink vases? Okay.
You stop. Okay. Squirrel, shiny penny.
They are not new vases, but they've been moved. Yeah.
How do I advocate for my daughter who is 18, a junior in high school, and has autism?
And you advocate for her, you get to the 504 IEP table, make sure that it's robust.
And What should I do if my child was left at school by herself for over an hour? I mean, murder, she wrote. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Alicia. What I would do and what I'd recommend you do as a professional are two different things. I would immediately capture that in writing and drive myself up to the school.
Just left by herself? I'm sorry. I'm still... All right. Should students on an IEP be in the RTI process? Shannon, you can go up next. Let's see.
Shannon was trying to do something fancy. Oh, wait, hold on.
Should students on an IEP be in the RTI process?
You can be in the RTI process with an IEP or anything. I mean, if you need RTI for something... Oh, that's funny. My thing is typing on the deal. Never mind. I'm just talking to myself. Nobody... Okay.
Stop looking at the laptop.
I'm not looking at the laptop.
For you.
But the letter U is being typed 8,000 times to everybody.
It's fine.
I'm going to hit send so it stops. It's you. Did y'all like that? I don't even know where the letter U is because I was talking at Dripping Springs during typing. So now we've moved to the number 7. Okay, whatever.
Shannon, are you going to ask a question?
Yes.
Okay.
When should the school start a transitional meeting due to the child graduating this year?
So the transition supplement had to start when they were 14, 15, or 16. So unless your kid's really smart and they're graduating earlier, it should have happened a long time ago.
All right, you got 4 minutes. You got 7 people asking if parents can observe their kids at school.
Yeah, I was about to say that one's been asked a lot.
Theoretically, but it's going to be all set up by the school. You're not going to see what you're looking for.
Correct. Twice exceptional or profoundly gifted said GE is least restrictive, 4 deviations above the peers. Oh, that's a smart baby.
Well, a school has no legal responsibility to provide anything above general ed. There's no legal requirement. So on the LRE page, there's nothing above general ed if you look at the graph. No, there are no services in a 504. I'm not jumping ahead. I'm just jumping. Somebody said, does a child have to take the state test? Unfortunately, all kids have to take the goofy state test.
You want to hear something funny?
I would like to hear something funny. I could use some funny.
I was reading a question to you, and you kept interrupting me, and then I realized I was on mute, but I was very upset for a minute.
Well, you know what we say? Let it out. You could do is you could make a TikTok about that.
I could. What can parents do when their child is tested and needs to be in an SDC classroom, but there is not? There's none.
So there's going to be a life skills classroom. It may not be at your campus, but there's going to be one.
Someone asked if an autistic child has to take a state test.
I feel like I just answered that question, ma'am, when you were muted. And the answer is still
I was
children.
probably yelling at you.
In silence. All children are required to take state tests in America. It's part of the education, underground mafia. And I love the mafia, but...
Going in for my first 504 planning meeting. Any advice? It's for my son who has severe ADHD.
Write down every question you may have on a piece of paper. Provide an opening statement and provide a copy of that to everybody and then read it with feeling.
Perfect. Okay, I want you to tell everybody when we normally go live on TikTok.
We normally go live on TikTok every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Or if you're in another time zone, it's a different time.
And we're not going to go through all those because we get confused.
Because I don't even know. Last week I was in Florida, and a few hours later I was in the Kodiak Islands. So my day was like from 7 a.m. till midnight. I was like, ma'am, the sun is down.
Okay, and then tell them about the academy.
So that we have the Academy every Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, where we teach on federal law and requirements. If you come to the TikTok Live, we have a code for you to join for free for 2 weeks. Could we just give them the code now, Alicia?
I mean, there's 545 of them, I guess.
I'm going to need y'all to vote. Laura, Sarah, all the... Okay, everybody said yeah, y'all can have the code. Okay, you ready? The code to join the Academy for free is... I'm going to let Alicia do it because this is her lane.
That's right. It's all caps. TikTok Live with the K's, not the C's. If you do the K's...
Can you spell it?
It's not going to work. TikToklive. And if I need to spell it, like T as in Timothy, I as in Igloo, K as in Karen, T as in Timothy, O as in Oprah, K as in Karen, L as in Louisiana, I as in Indigo, V as in Victor, E as in Elephant.
It's Igloo, ma'am. It's Igloo.
Whatever.
And then so when they go to Special Education Academy, tell them what to do. Okay,
so you're going to pull up the website, www.specialeducationacademy.com. There's also linked in the bio. You're going to click on the training tab. It is the third option when you get on the training tab. It's called the Academy. You're going to click on that. You will have to enter your credit card information, but at the bottom, it says, do you have a coupon? ? And you click on that. And you type in, all caps, TikTok Live. And then you will have access to the Academy. In 15 days, if you would like to no longer have that, you just simply pause your membership. If you would like to continue, it's $47 a month, and you can cancel at any time by pausing or canceling your membership.
And other than the lives, what's in the Academy?
200 hours of previous trainings that all have to do with Karen talking and teaching you for an hour at a time. It's all about the federal law. There's 16 ones just like deep diving into the IEP. There's 5 on behaviors in the classroom. There's 100. And 9 of procedural rights. There's a lot. And there's also free resources.
Thank you, Heidi.
And so you'll have that Academy. We meet every Tuesday. She teaches for an hour, and then she actually gives you an hour of her time to answer questions. It's on Zoom. So
the Academy is not continuing ed hours yet. We're trying to get continuing ed hours for the 2-day. It's not the easiest thing that one might think. But they have workbooks, and then you can count how many blazers I have. Because that really is the goal of all of it. But we love you guys. If you need something, let us know. If you are having any issues with logging onto the Academy, reach out to Advocate at specialeducationacademy.com. If you have any questions or you're looking for representation or just a records review, you can email us at admin at Special Education Academy. Lots of blazers. The other day when I was sad, I just went into my room and I hugged my blazers. They love me just the way I am. We love y'all. And we're going to keep doing this so that we can raise up a team of special ed bosses so that everybody gets what they need.
And I'm going to put my email address in the chat. I'm going to do it again. If you have any problems getting in, I seen somebody said they missed the coupon thing, just email me. We'll get it fixed for you.
You want to say the coupon again and put it in there again?
Yes. Laura does a great job.
Oh, sorry.
It's all caps. TikTok Live.
Somebody said, what's my turnaround for advocate consultation? Once you get us the opening documents to myself or another team member that you choose, the file will be prepped in a couple of days, and then we'll do a new Zoom review. You guys are old enough to remember that? I watched that when I was little. None of y'all were alive. Y'all, does anybody remember that show on PBS?
No.
Y'all really don't, do you?
No.
Oh my God, I'm 100 years old. So my advocacy rate is different than our team members, but that's available to you when you email us. Okay? All caps, TikTok Live. TikTok, you don't stop. All right, I love you guys.
I'm gonna put the email in one more time. Take a screenshot.
Oh, Res Lady remembers that. It's a new zoo review. Thank you. I felt like I was 117. Thank you. God bless America. Okay. So if you need anything, let us know. I possibly can do that. Yeah, just email us. We love you. If you need something, let us know. Yes, and I'm here to rearrange the backdrop. These are not new. You remember they were up there. And then we also have added some greenery, which Alicia is not happy about. But you know what? I do what I can for the people. So we love you guys. If you need something, let us know. And we see you guys in the next training.